Well, hello and welcome to this episode of The Visible Workplace. My name is Dr. Tom Rolley, and thank you so much for joining me. Got some interesting developments happening in the world today. Of course, a lot of the focus is on AI, and we'll be talking about that. But I feel like I'm kind of in that episode of Seinfeld. For those of you that remember the classic show, there was one particular episode, the soup Nazi. And it definitely feels like a little bit of that going on after a call that I had with my team this morning. But before we get to that, let's have a quick look at what's happened. Well, Visible Workplace is heavily drawing towards an insight that I had, which is that we put the instructions with the results and we will get a better outcome. Traditionally, this has not been done. We've had over in one corner project management, looking at what the results are that we want and what the status of it is, what's the due date, who's responsible. And over in another corner, separate from that, has been our SOP software, or also known as the instructions. And these two have been quite separate. Two very different camps of software and methodologies, and yet that essential insight that has come from some serious hard work that I did some years ago, trying to work out how these two fit together. And in the end, it was very obvious. It was like, hey, do the work and get the result. Follow the instructions, get the result. And we see this in things like Lego instructions. With the building blocks, you get the Lego. IKEA, you get the instructions, you put the flat back together, you get the furniture, and even recipes for cooking. Get the ingredients, follow the recipe, and you will get that dish. So this idea is quite simple, and yet for some reason, in the business world, we've had this very big separation. And so I've been working on some software, MagicBoards.io, and you can check out more at www.magicboards.io, where we are looking to bring this idea of putting the instructions with the results that we want in one place. And it's going well. It's going really well. I don't know what the first 4 sprints were, but sprint 5 got us to a working version, an MVP, minimum viable product. And I started tracking the feedback within the actual software. And we completed sprint 5. And then over the last 3 weeks, we've just completed sprint 6. And there was some really cool stuff in there. Header redesign, adding search bars to a couple of places that were missing. Really made some nice little UX UI, as well as adding the installable boards. So these are ones that have already been designed, that already work. If you need to create an offer, install that board, it's ready to go, up and running within 30 seconds or so. If you need to create advertising, install that board, ready to go, up and running within 30 seconds. It's very, very close to having an experience of swipe the credit card and get the 6-pack, a la Alex Hormozi. So it's exciting times. And so we're moving into sprint 7. And if you've been following along in the tech world at all, then you will know that the talk of the town is AI. And the news this week, ChatGPT just came out with 4.0. Now that's not 4.0, that's 4.0 for omnipresence. And unfortunately, one of the exciting things that I was hoping to trial out, and I actually signed up. At this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm willing to have the experience of the cutting edge of this. My team very happy by this. They're like, thank goodness you finally decided to invest in this. And one of the features that I was chasing was the ability to run the software, or the ChatGPT 4.0, on my laptop. Now, what I failed to find out, and of course, for those of you who may have been through a Wake Up Warrior, you will recognize that details matter. My laptop is aging a little bit and was running on the last generation of Intel processors. Unfortunately, ChatGPT has said, or unfortunately for me, ChatGPT has said, nope, no AI for you unless you're willing to upgrade your laptop. And so I am considering that. I'm like, you know what? This could be interesting. But even without the ability to have it running on the desktop, it's still seeming like very, very useful AI. And so I went to the dev team this morning with that question. Hey, MagicBoards, AI, What's this going to do? Should we do it now? And we had an interesting conversation. And it was an interesting conversation around when is the right time to implement. Now, I know there's a whole bunch of software that's been built from AI native, that essentially it's like, hey, we are going to build with AI in place. And one of those was on the All In podcast, the #1 podcast in the world, or at least that is what they're aiming for. For those of you who know that joke, that is definitely a cool one. Hopefully they do. I do hope that All In gets there. They got some stiff competition from Joe Rogan and the likes, but nonetheless, I wish them well. One of the besties, had been developing Glue.ai, essentially an AI that runs in the background and will do things a la a Slack type experience, but using chat AI. And this got my interest. I was like, you know what? This would be great to run on MagicBoards. We have chosen not to implement a messaging service at this point. Certainly did not meet the criteria for MVP, and it's not even on the agenda right now. But with Glue.ai, I went and signed up, and they said, hey, great, you're on the list. We'll let you know when it's ready. But towards the bottom of the page was a very interesting part. It said, hey, Glue AI, it's great by itself, but it's really designed for developers. It's not really designed. It is available for developers. And I'm like, this is fantastic. We're going to drop this straight in. I don't know what it's going to look like, but to me, to have an AI messaging service running on top of MagicBoards is going to open up for some interesting things. On the All In podcast, they're talking about promptless, where the AI can recognize that things are going. And with MagicBoards, you've got all the data of where projects are up to. You've got who's responsible, when it's due by, you can see what the next steps are, and having that messaging service there is very, very powerful. Now, it's not the full possibility. And this was revealed to me in a call I was having with a friend of mine, Jeremy Finlay, and he was like, you know, where you need to take this is for the AI agents to run this stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, we're basically going to end up with the ability for the AI to know what to do and do it. And so within a short period of time of a client signing up, that everything that needed to be done from a creative perspective could be handled. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's pretty cool. And so my excitement was up. But I went to the team and they said, well, you know, Tom, why don't you just calm down? Because the AIs are great, don't get us wrong, but if the structure of the software is not fully dialed in for a human, then adding an AI on that, it's too early. It was a very similar conversation that I was having around making it look really nice. Now, does it look good right now? Yeah, it looks pretty good. Could it look nicer? Absolutely. Absolutely. Color palettes, white, spacing, thin lines, all that sort of stuff. Right now, that isn't on the agenda. Why? Because the functionality is not dialed in. Are we there? We're close. 90%. I'm using it. It's fantastic. Like, I'm loving it. It's just like, oh, this is fantastic, this experience. This is exactly what I had in mind. And it's where I got to and was dreaming of using Monday and Google Docs, but now it's all just integrated in one thing. Monday couldn't quite do it. But the build that we've been up to with MagicBoards, it's like, oh, this does one job very, very well, which is run a business, run operations for the business across all of the areas, whether it's marketing or advertising or sales or fulfillment or optics or people, accounting, taxes, legal. All of these areas can be managed with the same design. And you might think, well, hang on, how can there be so much flexibility within one design? And the interesting thing is that the design, the structure is solid, and then the particular flavor of the work that needs to be done then gets put in. And this is the same point that my team was making to me to say, hey, wait, put in AI when we're rock solid on structure. And they were like, well, what do you want it to do? And I didn't quite share that part that I just shared with you, where it would be, hey, here's the client, go scrape their website, make the new funnel, make the new emails, make the new fulfillment, make the new client avatar, all of that stuff. No. But what I did give them was, well, you know what? What I had was an interesting experience. And that was $100 million leads. Now, you might be familiar with $100 million leads. Alex did pretty well to put 450,000 people in a room virtually. He was shooting from Las Vegas on a special, I don't know whether they have more of these, but I have been to the one in Las Vegas, part of WarriorCon 4. I was there in person, and it is an epic experience, like this huge U or even more than a U-shaped screen that goes around, and then the filming, it was phenomenal. And Alex shot $100 million leads from there. And of course, the pitch was, hey, you get this, you get this, you get this, you get this, you get the 4 ways of getting leads into your business, and that will be all for free. And it was a wonderful pitch. Obviously, that material is available on acquisition.com, and it's very useful. It's wonderful knowledge. But as Alex wrote to me recently in an email, he said, you know what, knowledge by itself, not so good. You got to change behavior. And so many people will have read $100 million offers and read $100 million leads, and not much has been done. But what I wanted to explore was, well, hey, Alex has clearly dialed this in. What would it look like to make these into magic boards? And here's where the AI really came into its own. I'd already had my team transcribe the audios off acquisition.com, and hey, here's all the text. But then the next step was, well, can these be turned into magic boards? And so the first question I put to ChatGPT 4o was, can you tell me the results that are being described in this article? And I pasted in the transcription of each of the videos, or not each of them. I only did the first one, and I handed off to my team. And it pulled up the results, and it was like, hey, this is producing a lead magnet. And I was like, okay, great, thank you. And would there be any templates that would create these lead magnet results? And once again, ChatGPT 4o went to work and delivered 7 different templates. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Okay, well, I'll copy those. Now I've got the results, and now I've got the templates that produce those results. And then I asked a final question. Using this data that you've already got, can you describe the steps that I would go through in order to use these templates and get the results? And then once again, guess what ChatGPT 4o did? It produced those steps. And so what it did was take Alex's training, the knowledge, and turn it into what we really want, which is the result. The result being a lead magnet. And it then was able to say, well, here's the templates that produce these lead magnets, and here's the process steps using those templates, also known as the structure of a magic board. And this to me was the first very clear usage case for a wizard for magic boards, in inverted commas. So right now, you kind of have to know what you're doing. You need to know that you put the results where the results go, and then think about the templates and steps that create those results. But with the technology that's available, it's going to be possible to say, hey, do you know the results that you want? Yes or no? And if you do, you type them in. But if you don't, you would be able to paste in a link to the YouTube or the Vimeo or to wherever the training is held, and get the AI to transcribe and then extract the results and create the templates and create the process steps and install that all into a new magic board. And now what we have gone from is from teaching and knowledge to usable deployment. Do you still have to then go and run that magic board? Yeah, right now you do. Absolutely. You've got to hit run and it will copy all of those steps and all of the required results into a fresh board so that you don't wreck the original. And then you have to do the work. But obviously you can see where this is going, that the AI is going to be able to understand those process steps, use the templates and create the results. So we're going to start by getting the structure right. But once we're rolling with that, the addition of these AI tools will make Magic Boards very potent, very powerful. And I know that other players in the space have definitely gone ahead and inserted AI. But the question is, what structure are you putting the AI into? What's the structure? And yes, AI may well transcend the requirement for project management and SOP documentation entirely. And if that happens and Magic Boards goes in the bin, okay. Okay, guess what? We're all in a way better place if that is the case. If it's like you don't need project management anymore, you don't need documentation of steps anymore because the AI is so powerful, it knows exactly how to do all of this. It's just like, hey, I want the result of, and it comes up and does it all for you without you seeing anything. And it's just like, here, it's done. I sent this advertising email to your list already. Like, oh, okay. Then hey, the world's a better place. This is good. This is good. We are going to face some very different problems than we've got right now. And certainly on that topic, the fear is, hey, the AI is coming, everyone's going to lose their jobs. And yet the very same fear was present in the Industrial Revolution when the machines came in, the industrial machines came in, and the fear was that people were going to lose their jobs. But it would seem like that has not happened. Instead, the opportunity for creativity, particularly creativity that I want to bring through as whatever my genius is, whatever your genius is, that if we could bring this through more effectively, and whether that is through Magic Boards or whether that's through a very potent and powerful AI that we don't even need project management anymore, I don't really mind. I would like the world to be a better place. And hey, right now we got some problems. We definitely have some problems. And check this out. Check this out. We're doing okay. We're doing really well. I was driving on the highway to go and see come home, doing 110 kilometers an hour, talking to my friend in Hawaii. I was like, you know what? That's pretty cool. for a bunch of people who, it was not that long ago that we were, we didn't even have farming. So to end up in a place where we have highly powerful automated intelligences that can create and do work for us, well, maybe it's all going to be okay. I don't know what's going to happen. In the meantime, and keep working on Sprint 7 for Magic Boards. We've got a couple of cool features coming through. One is multi-checkbox. So right now, you have to do things one at a time, but multi-check means tick these 3 things, and then we can do something to them all at once, whether that's changing the status, updating the due date, copying them, moving them, deleting them, kind of basic things. But right now, we don't have that. And I was like, you know what? That'd be a really cool feature to have. Second up, integration with Google Calendar. Now, not the triggering of the boards. Not the triggering of the boards. Right now, that is set up directly in Google Calendar. If you use Google Calendar, if you use something else, that's great. With the repeating nature. So if it's weekly, if it's every 2 weeks, if it's every 4 weeks, if it's every quarter, whatever that is, it's a repeating Google Calendar event, and you click the link and it takes you through to the correct Magic Board to run at that time. But what we're talking about now is the ability to add things that are done and ready and are scheduled for a date in the future, but we need a reminder. And so being able to click a button, add that step, to Google Calendar with a link directly back to the board so you can find it rapidly. And you're like, oh, great. It's Tuesday, the 18th of September. Boom, this is done. This is very useful for things that are scheduled in the future. The work's already been done already. And yes, this might be handled by scheduling software, but there are some things that are not. It's like, hey, I'm going to call this person in 3 weeks' time, or I'm going to call this person and send them a message in 10 days' time. And you might store that data in the Magic Board, but that reminder that goes into the Google Calendar is very, very potent. The final part that we're looking at is to add some fast start boards. Now, what's a fast start? Well, basically it's a blank. It's like, hey, I got an idea. I want to test it out. Click a button and we're into a blank Magic Board. And it might just be that you're typing in some results. It might be that you've got 1 or 2 steps that you want to track. These are not detailed, but this is for getting ideas and inspiration out of my head, out of your head, and into the system rapidly. And it might be a flop. It didn't go anywhere. Okay. But if it worked, then the ability to save it then to your library so it's ready to go next time will be a very powerful addition to the software. So that's sprint 7. We've got 3 weeks on that. And it's kind of exciting. It's like, hey, this is great. This very podcast will be run as a Magic Board, and my team will go through and extract the video, extract the MP3, run the transcripts, create all of the editing, give me a data card to create, which gets put into AI and I just get to edit, and then deploy it out. So all of these things are happening in the back end running Magic Boards, and it's working. It's fantastic. So if you're struggling with back-end operations, with running your business, getting stuff done, getting it deployed, essentially you can't see all of the work of your business, then maybe Magic Boards is for you. Head over to www.magicboards.io. That's all I got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day. Catch you then. Thanks for joining us at the Visual Workplace. This is a notification that the information and ideas discussed here are general in nature and do not take into account your specific circumstances. You should seek specialist advice for any medical, financial, emotional, mental, or other difficulties that you are facing with appropriate specialists and professionals so that they can apply your specific circumstances and give you the required advice. Thank you for joining us, but this is also a notification that all information is indeed general in nature and not specific for your personal circumstances.